We got all the way from, we have Ohio and Missouri and Gardena and Torrance and
Portland.
Portland. I think that the brothers from Myanmar won't join us because they're still without a lot of internet connection reliability at that point. So because
Miriam's going to join in about 10 minutes, Jack.
Okay, great. And then if it's just a reminder for everybody to be praying for Myanmar because because of the military coup, they've shut down a lot of the communications and the internet and cell phones. And so we were going to start a Bible study with them actually tomorrow night that we're not going to get to start. But now they're not even necessarily able to come on and tune on to a Bible study. So really just pray for them and the country. And the church and the church leaders have been, dragged before the authorities, and the military is putting pressure on them to tell their congregations not to protest. So it's a really tough spot for the church to be in. So just really keep them in your prayers as we trying to support them and open up partnership and everything. So, and then the only person that I know who should be here is a Beef, and hopefully he'll get on soon. So why don't we turn it over to Scott and let's get ready to rock and roll.
Yeah. Well, okay. So get your Bibles. We're continuing on looking at the mighty acts of Jesus during the month of February. And we're going to go back at the very beginning. We're going to go back to chapter 9, verse 18. We did this story before. That's the story of the rich young, of the ruler of the synagogue whose daughter has died.
So you're in Matthew chapter 9?
Yeah, Matthew.
Okay.
Sorry, Matthew chapter 9. We'll be in Matthew the whole time. Matthew chapter 9. And the reason I'm going back is because a couple of weeks ago, Abigail had asked, which a lot of people do, was when I mentioned that at funerals back then, they would hire people to mourn. And that sounds like an odd thing. I'm yelling. And that sounds like an odd thing. And so Abby basically volunteered. Actually, I volunteered her. But anyway, she was going to look that up and come back and tell us what that's all about. I don't even know that much about it. And so she wasn't here last week. So this week she's here and she's going to share. So let me just read or actually, Jack, you can read it.
Okay.
Wait, I got it here. So
Okay.
turn to Matthew chapter 9, verse 18 and following, that little story. So I'll give you all just a second. Matthew chapter 9, verse 18. So here we go. While he was thus speaking to them, behold, a ruler came in and knelt before him, saying, "My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live." And Jesus rose and followed him with his disciples. And behold, a woman who had suffered from a hemorrhage for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment. For she said to herself, "If only I touch his garment, I shall be made well." Jesus turned, and seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." And instantly the woman was made well. Verse 23. And when Jesus came to the ruler's house and saw the flute players and the crowd making a tumult, he said, "Depart, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. But when the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took her by the hand, and the girl arose. And the report of this went through all the district. So Abigail, tell us what you found out about that odd thing that the flute player and the people are making about tumultuous noise, and then they laugh at Jesus and all that. So what do you got?
Yeah, well, the specific question I had asked Scott was why were there professional mourners? I think that's just a weird concept, especially thinking about the funerals that we have these days. Like, we don't pay people to come and cry or to make a show of things, but actually it's a pretty common practice from what I found. I looked up different things, and so I'll just share the similarities between them. Basically, that's something that's pretty common in various types of cultures. And in ancient Rome, what they would do is basically put on a show for people that died. It like showed wealth. It was still a display of their money. And it's also to try and make the dead person look better. Like, oh, like, look how loved they were.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's basically a display of wealth. And so people would often hire mourners to come. And interestingly enough, like Rome had to put in place certain like regulations and like laws about it, because sometimes the mourners would get too carried away and they'd like tear their face up and like make themselves bleed or like pull their hair out. And so it like make the funeral less classy and it would take away all nature of it. So they had to put in rules that they couldn't get too carried away doing the show. And they also shared that not only did you have mourners, but you would have people come and play music. And also it was common to have someone follow along the crowd that's going for the funeral with a mask of the dead person's face. And so they like reenact the person at the funeral. So it's pretty interesting.
That is bizarre.
Yeah.
That is bizarre. That is, I mean, in our world, that's just bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for
I
them,
get the thing about
sign of wealth.
Wealth. Yeah. We all
Yeah.
get that.
Well, but it's not so, I mean, it's not so different from our world today. Like if you get a Yelp review or an Amazon review, there's a thing called reputation.com. Like you can pay somebody to make yourself look good, to get 5-star reviews for your product or your company or
my.
your business to look good. So
Yeah.
is it all that different? You're finding some way to manipulate, in one sense, the research. So they're like, man, I want to visit that yogurt shop because there's 10,000 people, but they all could be paid. I mean, you don't know,
Yeah.
it could be your friends.
And that also, I'm looking at the account here. It's interesting. What he said, "Depart, for the girl is not dead but sleeping," and they laughed at him. I always thought that was a bit odd that people who are mourning the death of a little girl would be in any mood to laugh, and even a derisive kind of a laugh. But if they don't have skin in the game, so to speak, if they don't have, if they don't really know the person, then they can just, laugh at him. That they're not sensitive to the merit, to the wedding. I mean, to the funeral. So thank you, Abby.
Yeah, thank you.
That's bizarre. Well, okay. Well, now let's go back to chapter 14. Here we go for tonight study.
So we're going to Matthew 14.
Yeah, Matthew 14.
Okay.
I
can read now if you want to.
14, verse 13.
Matthew chapter 14, verse 13.
The feeding of the 5,000.
All right, you want me to read that section?
Yeah. So it's Matthew 14, starting at verse 13. We'll just read
to
that.
21, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
13 to 21.
So you can just listen if you want, or if you want to follow along, that's fine. I'm reading out of the NLT, the Jesus-centered Bible, but anything will be very similar. So you read whatever you want. So, ready?
Yeah.
All right. As soon as Jesus heard the news, he left in a boat to a remote area to be alone. But the crowds heard. Yeah, good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The crowds heard where he was headed and followed on foot from many towns. Jesus saw the huge crowd as he stepped from the boat, and he had compassion on them and healed their sick. That evening, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy food for themselves." But Jesus said, "That isn't necessary. You feed them." "But we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish," they answered. "Bring them here," he said. Then he told the people to sit down on the grass. Jesus took 5 loaves and 2 fish and looked up towards heaven and blessed them. Then, breaking the loaves into pieces, he gave the bread to the disciples, who distributed to the people. They all ate as much as they wanted, and afterwards the disciples picked up 12 baskets of leftovers. About 5,000 men were fed that day, in addition to all the women and children.
Okay. So that is a bizarre story. Hey, Ryan. There's Ryan Bell now. This is a bizarre story.
Yeah.
It almost has a Greek mythology kind of a feel to it.
Yeah.
In the sense that, calming a storm or healing someone, that's one thing. But if you have 2 fish and you can make out of 2 fish, those are live entities. Those are human. I mean, those are live beings.
Right.
Yeah. And you just make a whole bunch of them, so spontaneous. It's almost like spontaneous generation.
Yeah.
We can't really get too far into the miracle itself, because there's a lot of stuff that we look at that and there's lots of wonderings get you really messed up in it. For example, 5,000 men. So with women and children, that's pretty 6, 7, 8,000 people.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, what kind of a field would you have to have even if you put them in groups of 50? That's 100 there's 100 groups and 50 people and sitting down in a circle.
Yeah.
I mean, you get the idea. This would be a massive, massive field, almost a plain, not a field,
Yeah.
you know, and, you know, the logistics of trying to feed 7,000 people
Yeah.
would be, I mean, how fast would that bread and those fish have to, you get the idea. The
Yeah.
whole thing becomes cumbersome to wrap your mind around. So we're not going to do that.
Oh, okay.
Because otherwise we'll spend all night on that rabbit trail.
Yeah.
And we're just going to assume that. Some people say, but one thing we're not going to do is William Barclay says, well, it wasn't really a miracle of the fish.
Yeah.
Maybe some of you people know this. What he did is he made everyone sit down, and because he made them get along together, they all shared their food, and
Yeah.
then everyone had enough, you know.
Yeah.
But that doesn't fit at all,
No.
because if people are already hungry, you know, there's not going to be enough food to fill. I mean, the whole thing,
Yeah.
that falls apart.
Yeah.
And then there's no miracle.
Right.
And anyway,
Too
Okay.
convenient to explain away the miracle.
yeah. It's,
So,
you just can't-
We
geez.
have to say the miracle happened. It was
Yes.
important enough for them, the eyewitnesses. There's no contradictory evidence.
Right.
We don't, of course, you can't say exactly, we don't know exactly how that happened,
Right.
but it did happen.
Yeah. And there's
Yeah.
all kinds of movies, you know, some are better than others, how the
Yeah.
bread and fish multiply.
Yeah.
But no matter what you do with it, you cannot figure out, unless you're going to spend 12 hours, how you're going to get 5 loaves and 2 fishes multiplied so fast
Yeah.
to feed 7,000 people. You know,
Yeah.
okay. So what we are going to do is look at the miracle itself and what can we discern from that event.
Yeah.
You know?
Not how it happened, but maybe why or what's
Yeah, we're
behind
just,
it.
like I said, we can't get into the
Yeah.
specifics because it takes.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, and with our 20th century brains and our 21st century, anyway, okay. So there's 2 or 3 things that are really key about this. One of them is the people could not have missed the fact that this is a type of Moses, you know, in the wilderness, you know, aren't the people of Israel in the wilderness, and God takes care of them with the manna, you know, the manna from the bread. And then of course you get the doves, and I mean, the
Yeah.
quail and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you could look at that and say, wow, if people were seeing this happen, they could conclude this is like Moses.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
God is, you know, he's a type of Moses that he could
Yeah.
do this. So there's that aspect of it.
Ada's here, so.
Oh, there's
Hi,
Ada. Hello, Ada.
Hi, Ada.
All
Good
right.
to see you.
Ada, yes.
Hi.
Good to see you.
We're reading in Matthew chapter 14.
Okay.
Okay? So if you have
Okay.
your Bible, you can turn to Matthew chapter 14,
Is there anyone who speaks Spanish? tonight?
verse
No.
13.
Mateo 34.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So but one of the things that actually your dad brought up in some of his teachings, and which I saw as well, I think most people do, is when these people are there, they've come out for the miracle. People from all walks of life, people from all social levels. You know, you may have God-fearers, you may have proselytes, you may have Judean Jews living in Jerusalem, you may have Jews from other places, you know, Jews heavily influenced by the Greek culture. You know, this is a cosmopolitan group of people who are following Jesus. And when the crowds follow Jesus, it's not like the very first people stayed with him the whole time when he went from Judea to Galilee to Tyre and Sidon. You know, I mean, people are following, breaking off, going
Yeah.
home. Other people are picking him up, and you know, except for a small group, it's probably a free flowing.
Right.
You know, Jesus is moving, and people are following, and then leaving and coming back, and it's again. I love what we said last week. You can't put Jesus in a box. This is not his ministry is not sealed and it's got nice edges and it's clean and it's prescriptive and on and on. You know, like we said last week,
Yeah.
his healings. His healings are all over the place. Sometimes it's faith, sometimes it isn't faith. Sometimes it's people who don't even know they're getting healed.
Right.
I mean, it's all over the place. You can't pin it down. And same thing with this type of thing.
There's no formula.
There's no formula.
And here you can imagine that on a daily basis, he's experiencing a whole host of different people from all walks of life, from all cities, from all areas, everything. Right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there's something about this, and I labeled it all the walls and barriers come down. This is,
Mhm.
if you were to say anything, I think it's in the Psalms that talks about the table in the wilderness, and that it's a more of a sarcastic comment, But here, Jesus really is preparing a table in the wilderness. This is really that kind of a thing that's happening.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that he does this. I mean, let me back up for a second. Why does John the Baptist go out into the wilderness he makes the people come out into the wilderness to see him and to get baptized?
Yeah.
He's out in the wilderness. And one of the reasons why he's out in the wilderness is when people go out in the wilderness, all the barriers, your social trappings aren't noticed. No one can really tell who you are. Same thing that goes on today in our world. If any of you have ever gone camping up in the mountains, I never have, and I never will. All right.
But you hear there's such a thing.
I've heard about it. Yes.
Okay.
I heard that people get in old clothes and they take tents and they go live in the dirt for a week.
On purpose.
On purpose. Yeah.
Okay.
The Cambodians could never figure that out when they heard that Americans go out to deliberately live in the dirt.
Yeah.
That was foreign,
Yeah.
But some people do that.
Yeah.
And so if Jack and a bunch of his friends go hiking high up into the mountains to a lake or something, and it's a very popular spot, and they're minimalists, they just have a tent and sleeping bags and fishing poles. They're really minimal, and other people are up there. When you're camping up there, you can't tell who are bankers, who are politicians, who are janitors, who are bakers. All the trappings of society are gone.
You're just sitting around the lake fishing.
Yeah, and they're fishing and we're fishing, and you don't know who's who. All the walls come down. You may in the evening, you may be at your campfire, and some of the guys from another campfire may come over and say, hey, we got some extra beers, we got some Cokes or whatever it is, and you start talking, and you don't know who those people are. And then all of a sudden, as they start talking, you realize he's a banker, but you look over at his camping stuff and it looks just like yours. He's dressed just like you.
Yeah.
His Rolex watch doesn't do him any good up here,
Right.
And so there's a sense when you're out into the wilderness, there's a great equality, and all the walls and barriers come down simply because they just can't be there.
Yeah.
And so I think this is one of the things, like Jesus said, like Rich said, I love in his notes, so I quote him, he said, there's no discrimination in this feeding event in the wilderness. If you're hungry, you qualify.
Yeah.
I love it. If you're hungry, you qualify.
Yeah.
All right. And it denies the whole thing of ritual purity.
Yeah.
Many Jews, before they ate or who they ate with or what they came in contact with, all that kind of stuff, they would have to do a prescriptive washing.
You guys are muted. We can't hear anything.
Yeah, we lost sound.
You guys are muted. That's what happened.
We can't hear you. We can hear each other, I think.
When we lose this guy.
Oh, we're
10
back.
minutes ago.
It's still up there. It says.
We
There
can
you
hear
are.
now. Yep.
Are we back now?
Yes.
Yep. You're
Okay.
back.
Okay, what was
Oh,
the last thing you heard me say?
Okay.
Good
you
good
hear- can
evening,
you still
and
hear us?
we're no. You were just talking about oh my gosh, my brain.
You were talking about
Somebody-
camping and
You
bankers,
Rich said,
and
Okay.
you're in the same clothes as you are.
Okay. Did he read the quote?
During the
if you're
talk
hungry, you qualify.
Yeah,
Okay.
you were
Yeah, okay. Then that's
talk
you didn't miss
about-
much. Yeah, you got me.
So you're pretty close. Okay,
Yeah.
good. So somehow we have no idea. We're sitting here. We haven't touched anything, and so there we go.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. So basically, when they're out in the wilderness, you don't know who's who. The Jews cannot practice ritual purity. Those who are really inclined that way, so they can't be superior to anyone else out
Right.
there.
Right.
If you follow Jesus into this event, you've been there for a day or two or three, whatever it is. You're hungry, you get fed. You qualify. I love that. I love Rich's line. If you're hungry, you qualify.
I don't know. So just so folks know, this is not rehearsed. I have no idea what Scott's going to say. We just get together to kind of study the word together and to, But the thing that occurs to me too is it's like almost like a party, because if you read before, you know, Jesus saw the huge crowds, and the first thing, I mean, we often focus on the feeding of the 5,000, but he said, but he had compassion on them and healed their sick. So also, to me, it has the tone of like, these are people that are celebrating. They all brought out their sick. And so now you're having this celebration dinner with a bunch of people.
Oh, that's good.
Like everybody, oh, I had a son that was sick, and you had a daughter and an uncle and a father and all this stuff. And so it's kind of like, well, what do? You want to party? I mean, what do you do when, I don't know, I know people have done this before, like, you know, you're free of cancer, 1 year free of cancer, or remission or something, you have a party. So Jesus is throwing a party for all the people that he just healed, and now he's feeding them, you know, and there's a bunch of people that have got to be happy as heck,
I love it. I love it. Exactly. And when he has the people sit down, we learn from the other gospels that he just has them getting groups of 50 or 100.
Yeah.
And so you could be sitting with strangers. The whole group of people you're with could be strangers, but you have this one thing in common.
Right.
We're here to hear Jesus. People have been healed among us. They're excited. And we're all eating together.
Brings people to the table.
It brings people, exactly. It brings people to the table.
Yeah.
You know, I just love it. And I don't want to, you know, we can go on and all kinds of things, but then at the end, two things. It says everyone ate until they were full.
Yeah.
Right. It was abundance. It wasn't like Jesus got enough food out that they all shared and they kind of figured out where they got enough. No, it says they ate their fill. This is in line with God is with us. He's magnanimous, you know, the whole healings and that type of thing is God is visiting. This is the day to celebrate. Like you said, the bridegroom is here. It's the day of the wedding. You know, everyone gets everything. This is a great day. Everybody's happy today.
And he's even actually exceeding Moses, because if you remember, Moses does the miracle of the manna. You know, what Moses doesn't do it, but then the whole point is manna was only enough for a day. There wasn't anything left over, and you couldn't hang on to it.
Right.
If you hang on to it, it would spoil. But now there's like even more left over. So Jesus is exceeding Moses.
Yes,
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
God is magnanimous. This is a great event. God is visiting us.
Yeah.
We cannot lose that fact, you know. And then at the end, you know, very specifically, they all ate and were satisfied, and they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces left over.
Right.
Okay. Notice there are 12 disciples.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a point that Matthew is making, is Jesus is taking care of his boys, his guys, but they don't eat till the end.
Yeah.
You know, your job is to serve these people, and they probably put in a lot of hard work doing this, but at the end, I'm taking care of you guys too. And that will come up later on, you know. So anyway, so that's just one of the mighty acts of Jesus. It's just wonderful to see.
Yeah.
Wonderful to see. Then we go right into the next section, which is Jesus walks on the water.
Okay.
So this is an account, a story that I always use as an example of using your imagination. You know, how far can you go with your imagination into this story and still stay within the context of it? So I'm going to be playing a little bit with that, and hopefully this will help people get the idea of what it means to use your imagination when you look into the scripture. So go ahead, just read that whole account.
So this is, and first, if there's some people that are just joining too, this is Matthew chapter 14. We just did the feeding of the 5,000, the feeding and the healing, and now we're working on Jesus walks on the water, which is Matthew 14, verse 22.
22 through 33.
So, all right. And so all the way through the end of the chapter, right?
No, just to verse 33.
Oh, just to
then it
33.
goes into something else.
Okay, gotcha. All right, good. So immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and cross to the other side of the lake while he sent the people home. After sending them home, he went up to the hills by himself to pray. Night fell while he was there alone. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble, far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came towards them, walking on the water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost!" But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage. I am here." Then Peter called to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on the water towards Jesus. But when he saw the strong winds and the waves, he was terrified and began to sing. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why did you doubt me?" When they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. Then the disciples worshiped him. "You really are the Son of God," they exclaimed.
Duh.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So here we go. So let's use our imagination. So Jesus has sent the disciples in a boat across the Sea of Galilee,
Yeah.
or the lake. And he goes up on the hillside to pray,
Just to be alone.
just to be alone and to
Yeah.
pray, right? He's dismissed the crowds. So he's up there by himself. Now, again, I'm using my imagination, but the text will, I think the text will allow me some leverage or leeway to do this. He's up on the hillside. He's up high enough in the mountains, the hills, that he can look down out over the sea and he can see the boat. Now, they've been at this for what, 2 or 3 hours out there in the lake. So he's up on a hillside high enough to look down on the sea, which means the only way he could see them is there would be, the moon would be out. There'd have to be the moon out, because otherwise it's all black and you couldn't see anything unless he has x-ray vision, and we don't have any indication of that. So he's up on a hillside, and plus when it's the wind that's beating against the boat. They're not in a storm. There's not, the rain isn't coming down. It's not a storm. It's just a windy night.
Yeah.
They're not in danger. It's just, they're just having a hard time of it, rowing against the wind. And so he's up on the hillside. He can see them way out on the sea. Okay. So it's about 3 a.m. or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's what they said. Yeah.
Yeah.
3 in
So
the
it's about 3 a.m. or something like that. So, and so then Jesus starts, he's going to walk. So he's going to go to him.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the other accounts says he meant to pass by him or something, and
Yeah.
they saw him, but we won't get into that. We'll just stay with this story. All right. And by the way, Matthew is in the boat. The guy who's telling this story
was there.
This is eyewitness account. All right. So, so Jesus is walking on the water towards him. So now, from the perspective of the guys in the boat, all right, the moon is out. It's a full moon, at least, it's probably a full moon or pretty close to it. And from a distance, they see someone moving on the water towards them. All right.
Yeah.
So now, and this is, again, I'm just using my imagination. If the moon is out tonight in Gardena,
Mm-hmm.
no, if you go to the beach, sometimes when we were in college, we'd go to the beach, and play football at 2 or 3 in the morning. Because a full moon, you can actually play football on the beach. You can throw the ball. And so you can see quite a bit. And so I'm saying you could probably see 50 yards pretty clear. I can throw a football and see you on a full moon.
Yeah.
I can throw a football 50 yards to you. So let's say Jesus or that person is at least probably 75 yards away. It's a being that's so far away that you can't tell who it is or what it is. And so they say, what do they think it is?
Well, something a little scary. That's like
it's
a
a
ghost
ghost.
just walking on the water.
Yeah, it's a spirit, some kind of a spirit. They're scared to death. We would be scared to death. What is this? We've seen a lot of horror movies. You can imagine what we would be thinking.
Yeah.
So anyway, so when they cried out for fear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But immediately, they say they're terrified, saying it's a ghost, and they cried out for fear. But immediately, that is Jesus, spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I, have no fear." He is not standing next to the boat saying, "Hey guys, relax.
Yeah.
It's me." He's yelling. He's yelling at them the wind is up. It's loud. It's noisy, and you can hear Jesus saying, "It's me, Jesus." He's away. He's far enough away for them not to know it's him until he says, "It's me." And so it's Jesus. Okay. At that moment, Peter gets this crazy idea that if Jesus is walking the water, somehow, and we don't know where this comes from. This is so bizarre. No one has stepped into one of Jesus' miracles before. We observe his miracles, right? But no one has stepped into the miracle.
Right. Let me make wine with you. Let me make bread with you.
Yeah, let me join in this.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yet Jesus is clearly doing something miraculous, supernatural, or what do you want, superverse, out of the universe, whatever it is. And so Peter says, but Peter becomes, I want to say, almost like the centurion, in the sense that he's figured out that Jesus, this is Jesus, and something in him, maybe the centurion gave him that type of thing with the centurion, because this man of faith, Jesus was able to heal or do something from a distance away, and you had to have, and he needed, how can I say this? Jesus needed to give permission. Jesus said he would do this type of thing. Remember, the centurion goes to Jesus, and Jesus says, "Oh, I'll do this.
Right.
I'll do this for you." And then the centurion says, "No, no, no, no." Wait, you know, and then Jesus says, "Okay, go. He's healed." All right. So Peter, in the same vein of that, says, "Lord, if you will, you know, if you permit it, let me walk on the water to you." You know, I mean, that's I mean, you would think that Jesus would probably say, "No, Peter, this is me. You know, I'm showing you who I am. You're not this." You know.
Here it's in this translation, it just says, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walk on the water."
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. He's asking, he's wanting Jesus to bring him into this. You know, he's not saying, "Jesus, stay there. I'm coming to you, man. Don't let me sink."
Yeah.
No, he's asking, "Please, you know, Lord, let me do this." Okay. And so Jesus says, "Well, come on." You know, Jesus is probably, I would imagine if I was Jesus, it'd be kind of like a parent wanting one of their kids to, you know, they want to learn how to do something, and they say, "Dad, can I do this?" And it's an act of courage or something. And like your daughter, you'd go, "Okay, honey, come on."
Yeah, try it. Yeah.
Jump in the, "Daddy, can I jump in the water?"
Yeah.
You know, she's scared. She never swam before, and you say, "Yeah, honey, I'm right here. I'll catch you. Jump in." You know, this is a great moment for Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, and so Peter steps out of the boat, and he starts walking on the water.
That's crazy.
Now we can have fun with that and say, well, how does he walk on the water if the wind is up and the waves are up? Is he, you know, how does he balance himself? Does his feet get wet? I mean, how far does it do? I mean, it's crazy when you start trying to picture, kind of like the feeding of the 5,000. You really can't get into this too much because you kind of go, what?
Right. We don't know how it happened. We just know that it happened.
Exactly.
I mean, if you get caught up in that, you'll miss the whole.
Yeah, exactly. Did the water? Did he touch the water? Did his feet get wet? Did he sink? You know, whatever. So he's moving on the water. He's moving on out towards Jesus. Well, this seems to happen. This whole thing is transacting pretty fast. Jesus is walking. He yells out, and we don't get any indication that Peter waits for a half hour, or 20 minutes, or 10 minutes. It's like it happens, and he's quick on this, which is typical of Peter, right? Peter's very impetuous.
Yeah, he's impulsive.
Impulsive, yeah. And so he gets out of the boat, but Jesus is still 50 yards away.
Yeah.
He's quite a ways out there. This is the drawings or the paintings of this type of thing usually has Peter stepping out of the boat. He's about 2 or 3 feet outside the boat. Jesus is there, and he's grabbing him because he's sinking. Oh. That is not what is portrayed here. Jesus is quite a ways out, and so Peter starts walking on the water.
Right.
You know, going all the way out to Jesus, and it says that he keeps his okay. So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus, but when he saw the wind, he was afraid. What do you mean? What it means is he saw Jesus and he's fixated on this event. He's probably caught up in the moment of like, I'm walking on the water.
Yeah.
You know, and he's walking out to Jesus and he can't believe this is happening and happening and happening. And when he finally it's when he finally gets to Jesus, he gets to Jesus 50 yards out. Now he's there. And now he has a chance to pause and kind of realize what he's just done. And he looks back, and he's standing out in the middle of the sea.
That he's deathly afraid of.
And he's deathly afraid of it. He can't swim. And he looks to the back of the boat, and he goes, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's a little joke, okay? Right. Okay. Did you all get that? There's a little humor there? Yeah. Okay.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, okay. Anyway. And so he looks back, and then he realizes where it's at, and then he becomes afraid, and he doubts, and he starts going, "Oh my, what have I done? What have I done?" or something like that. Yeah. And then he starts to sink. And then, of course, Jesus catches him. Some people believe that Jesus then made him walk on the water together as they went back to the boat. Other people think that Jesus just literally threw him over his shoulder or drug him through the water, or the boat itself. They rowed backwards, which would have been easy coming back against the wind. Yeah. They rowed back to where Jesus and Peter are. However it goes, and then Peter gets in the boat. Oh,
yeah. If you get caught up in that, once again, like caught up in some controversy that we can't know.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
so besides the point anyway.
exactly.
you know?
But notice that when Jesus says to him, "Oh man of little faith,"
Yeah.
okay, why did you doubt? That is not a rebuke. You know, that is a term of endearment, just as if Abigail has decided she's never been in the water before,
Yeah.
and you're in the water, and she says, "Daddy, I want to jump in the water. Can I swim to you?" And he goes, "Absolutely, honey." And she gets in the water and she starts paddling her arms and she's starting to do it. And then she, you know, and you grab her and you say, "Oh, honey, you know, oh, why did you stop, honey? Why'd you stop? You were doing so
You were
great."
so close.
Yeah, but it's a term of endearment. It's not a rebuking, because he's already had incredible faith that even asked. I mean, why would anyone think that you could enter into a miracle?
Right.
I'm gonna enter into this miracle, not watch it from the side or benefit from it. I'm going to step into it.
Yeah.
Where would that come from? You know, you get Peter somehow figures that he can do that. And so, as C.S. Lewis says, this miracle is for just a brief moment, the window of eternity opened up. The new creation. Peter stepped into the new creation for just a second. You know, it's like the clouds cleared, the sun shone just for a minute in the middle of winter, you know, and then it closed up. You know, and Jesus was so excited that Peter got to experience for just a moment, you know, the new creation.
Right. This is what it's going to be like if you really trust me. Like I think that he does at other points. There is the "Oh ye of little faith" that's said in a critical way, or you know. But this is not that. I do think as a parent or somebody like you were like, "Oh, you know, why did you doubt yourself? You were so close. You could do it." You know, I mean, that happens all the time in the life of a parent, that you're just like, "Oh, you know, oh man, you know, whatever it is, you let fear take over you, you know, something that prevented you from doing, like, I don't know, a kid riding a bicycle."
Exactly. There you go.
You're pushing them and pushing them. They think it's fine. All of a sudden they're going on their own and they realize you're not pushing them, and then they just panic. You know, it's like, "Oh, you were doing so good." You know, and that makes much more sense to how, as opposed to all of a sudden he's going to criticize him.
Right, exactly. Because he wasn't a man of little faith in reality. I mean, who would ever think
out of all of them, he's the only one who tried?
Well, that's one of the lessons. Exactly. So, you know, you could say that Jesus is, "Oh, man of little faith," but Peter got out of the boat. Peter got out of the boat.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can imagine when they got back in the boat, all those other guys you know, they're kind of looking at Peter like, "What just happened?" You know, you know, and then they go on to finally they go to the shore. You know, it's like, don't you think those guys were asking Peter, "What was that like, man?" You know, can you imagine? You know, but the other thing is I think one of the lessons is their final statement. I mean, Matthew does not waste ink on expensive paper to do a silly story. There's something to this account.
Right.
You know, and part of it is Peter walking on the water. I think that whole thing of stepping into the new creation, but also, is this not dramatic proof that they said, say, "Truly you are the Son of God." And there they are making
they worshiped him.
They are making no, how can I say this? Some scholars try to again put adjectives in that aren't there. You know, like, "Oh, truly you are a Son of God," or "You're like God," or, you know, no, these guys,
they were worshiping him.
Exactly. They see it. This is the Son of God. They may not believe he's God of the universe, you know, but they certainly believe this is the Son of God. This is the Messiah. You know, that's clear. You know.
Well, it seems like that, even though they knew in their history a lot of things that had happened, you know, Moses or whoever, and they knew that Moses had fed people miraculously, and they knew that people had been healed. But then there's nothing that I know of in Jewish history about anybody walking on water. That this is the first time, and this would have to be. And you know, like you said before, the Jews were deathly afraid of the ocean. They were afraid of the sea, of drowning, and so this was a mortal fear for them to be out on the ocean, and that Jesus overcame that would be something that was, like, they would have to realize this was way beyond anything they'd ever experienced. And they worshiped him. People didn't worship Moses.
Exactly.
They didn't even listen to him. I mean, you know, like they didn't listen to him for very long. So they certainly didn't. And they didn't worship Noah. They just ridiculed him and other people too. So, yeah.
And I think another lesson for us in this is just Jesus' words to Peter. You know, it's like sometimes we will step out in faith. We do things, radical things.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we've all done something that took courage.
Yeah.
You know, something that we were afraid to do, and we said, "Well, I got to do it," and we did it, which is courage.
Yeah.
You know, you can't have courage unless you're afraid. You all know that, right?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as courage. You have to be afraid in order to be courageous.
Right.
So we step out and we have courage.
Hmm.
We believe something based on God's evidence, whatever you want to come to it. We believe this is the right thing to do. And so we step out and we start doing it. And then as we go, come on now, as we go, we start doubting.
Falter.
We start faltering. We start thinking back like, oh man, I have really burned some bridges on this, or I'm about to burn a bridge. And we start getting scared. And then we start pulling back and cutting corners, or not doing it as well as we did before, because we're thinking to go any further is going to cost me, or it's going to be, you know, I'm going someplace I've never been before, whatever it would be. And so we falter. And this is a physical picture of what we are warned against. You know?
The doubt and the fear creep in.
Yeah.
And then you get derailed, you know.
Exactly. And then, exactly. So, okay. So there's that.
Wow.
Let me get to my next, where are we here? Let me see, I lost my, now we're going to go to,
and always remember, everybody who's here, like if you have a comment or a question, feel free to like raise your hand or shout out.
Yeah.
And especially if we're muted, we appreciate the feedback telling us that we're muted. So that's always welcome. And so, you know, interactive Bible study.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we'll have time for do one more, which is another main one I want to get to, which is the Canaanite woman, the controversial one where Jesus calls a woman a dog. Okay,
so
that's in chapter 15, verse 21 through 28.
Okay, so this is Matthew 15, 21 to 28.
Right.
So,
right.
Okay, good. We'll have some controversy here.
Yeah. So now, just go ahead and read it. Then go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Matthew 15, 21 to 28. Then Jesus left Galilee and went north to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Gentile woman who lived there came to him, pleading, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David, for my daughter is possessed by a demon that torments her severely." But Jesus gave her no reply, not even a word. Then his disciples urged him to send her away. "Tell her to go away," they said. "She is bothering us with all her begging." Then Jesus said to the woman, "I was sent only to help God's lost sheep, the people of Israel." But she came and worshipped him, pleading again, "Lord, help me." Jesus responded, "It isn't right to take food from the children and to throw it to the dogs." She replied, "That's true, Lord, but even the dogs are allowed to eat the scraps that fall beneath their master's table." "Dear woman," Jesus said to her, "your faith is great. Your request is granted." And her daughter was instantly healed.
Okay. So this story has had about as many New Testament commentators as there are probably about as many different ways of figuring this out.
Yeah.
You know, and so I've got one, and so all you can do is just hear how I'm playing it out, and you know, take it as you would. Again, Matthew is there. He's one of the disciples, so he's probably portraying this or relating it pretty accurately.
So that's, I think, I know you say that, but I think I've been in Bible studies for a significant portion of my life, and that's such a good thing to be reminded of, that this isn't somebody, in this case, this isn't somebody who heard about this happening.
Right. This
is somebody who's recalling from memory, fresh memory, something that happened and writing it down so we all can know. But that's like, this is an eyewitness account of what happened at this situation.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to be reminded of. It helps you listen, I think, better and affect us in a different way, or at least it should.
And that's a good point, because a lot of times when we're reading these things, we think these are stories that someone has heard. Exactly. These are historical stories or events that you kind of put pieces together.
Right.
Well, not with Matthew,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
that brother was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's writing down. Yeah.
He's writing it down. And,
Yeah.
and these are dramatic situations. These
Right.
are, again, you
And-
don't waste expensive paper. We
Right.
have to remember that in the first century, the papyrus, whatever they wrote on, was incredibly expensive. And so if you're writing things down,
Yeah.
you don't go on rabbit trails like we do today. If you have,
Yeah.
you can go to the store and buy a ream of 500 sheets of paper for nothing, right?
Right.
You know, so years' wages for the kind of paper they had. So
Well, and the thing is, John is the only disciple to live to old age. All the rest of them were persecuted for their faith and killed and martyred.
yes,
So they didn't live to be old men. So he actually wrote this soon after it happened because he didn't live a long and full life. He was killed for being a Christian.
Exactly.
He was killed for telling people about this story.
exactly.
So this had to happen relatively. It's not like you think, oh, well, you know, you could just say, oh, he was just an old guy remembering something that happened when he was in college. No, he never got that.
Yeah.
This is something he had to get down on paper before he was killed for telling people
Right.
about Jesus.
Well,
So,
we just to add to
I
that.
mean, you know.
Okay, so by the time he writes this down, this story has been told and retold
Right.
for years. Most people think Matthew wrote this account late 50s, early 60s,
right.
right around the beginning of the
So maybe 15 to 20 years after Jesus dies.
right, 15
Yeah.
to 20 years. But
Yeah.
it's not like this is the first time he goes, oh, let me see.
Right.
Gosh, what were some of the things Jesus did? You know,
Yeah.
they've been telling the story of the
Well, but I
resurrection.
think if
for
I think
years.
I think if you saw someone walk on the water, you'd remember the story pretty
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
I mean, you know.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is my take on this account. So here we go. So Jesus, let me have to see if I can follow my notes. Well, I'll go to my notes if I need them. Okay, so Jesus has withdrawn from Galilee. He's said some radical things about the Pharisees, to the people, and so you could say things are heating up. Things
Yeah.
are hot, whatever. The crowds are all around, which is dangerous for him as well. And so he's taken a break, it appears. He's going off into basically Phoenicia, into the Tyre and Sidon. This is a Gentile area.
Yeah.
Okay. Tyre and Sidon are port cities. They're Gentile, Canaanite, Phoenician, historically Phoenician cities. But they are port cities. They are towns where commerce, there's trade and commerce going on. So there would have been movement between Judea, you know, the Jews and people going into and from the ports. You know, anytime there's commerce or trade, you get mixtures of people knowing what's going on in different regions. You know, people are coming in town, they're stopping, they're eating, they're talking, they're visiting, and you know, so it's not like they're isolated. Tyre and Sidon are very much aware probably of what's been going on in Judea. They're not isolated in that sense. So Jesus is with his disciples. It appears maybe just the disciples, maybe a small crowd. We don't know that. But they're going all away. Jesus is probably going to take a break. It doesn't appear he's going to Tyre and Sidon to do any miracles, or to have any ministry there. He's just getting away. Because soon after this account with the lady, he then turns around and goes, forget where, someplace else. So he doesn't do anything there. So that's why Matthew is saying, he says, and behold. Remember, anytime you see that word behold, or truly, truly, or verily, verily, those words say, check this out. What I'm going to say right now is really unique, really important. This is something you really, pay attention. Focus, Pinky, focus. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he says, behold, check this out. A Canaanite woman from that region came. Okay, so it's a Canaanite woman coming to them. So you've got a Gentile. She's a Canaanite. They can usually tell by the accent. I was looking that up.
Yeah.
Okay. They spoke Hebrew, a form of Hebrew, maybe like Pidgin English or something.
Yeah.
But the point is, they could tell by her accent, even by her dress. Obviously, she wasn't a Roman citizen, but this is a Canaanite woman. The Jews didn't like the Canaanites. Okay. They were like the Samaritans, maybe. I don't know how close they would be. I don't know who's worse, a Samaritan or a Canaanite. But the Canaanites were not people they typically got along with. You didn't hang out with Canaanite people. This is a Canaanite woman. Okay, so which is Gentile, Canaanite woman. 3 strikes, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so she came and cried out, have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely possessed by a demon. So she's following, it appears she's following after him, but she's crying out, let me say it again. She's crying out,
Yeah.
"Oh Lord, Son of David."
Right.
There's a problem. Do you remember when he healed the blind men? I think it was last week we talked about the blind men. They were saying, "Have mercy on us, Son of David."
Right.
And he did not respond to them. He waited till they got out of public into his house before he finally turned and said, "Okay, what do you guys want me to do for you?" Okay. Whenever the demons see Jesus, they say, "Son of David, Son of God, have you come before your time, or have you come to do whatever?" And Jesus, what does Jesus tell them? He says, "Shut up.
Yeah.
Don't say any more." He does not want that title going out this early in his ministry, because like I said last week, people will they will attach the wrong meaning to that title.
Right.
They think when you say the Son of God, Son of David,
Yeah.
that's the Messiah, and that's a political, military.
That's the general that's going to come in like David and restore them to power.
Exactly. And Jesus has got a whole nother agenda.
Right.
And so, but if they think that's what it is, then they're going to treat him that way. And
Right. And
so
they did anyway. And Jesus preferred to refer to himself as the Son of Man.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Son of Man.
Not Son of David.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she's saying Son of David. Okay. She's saying it loud enough that Jesus can hear her. So we don't know if she's walking behind him, if she's standing next to him, but the point is he is within hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. But he did not answer her a word. He doesn't answer her. He doesn't answer to that title. Okay. She has come and asked him for healing. He's going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We know that right up from every account we have of Jesus, that when anyone comes to him, whether it's a Gentile, whether it's a blind man, whether it's an unclean leper, whether it's an unclean woman, whether it's a Gentile Roman soldier, I mean, whoever it is, if they come to Jesus, he heals them.
Yeah.
I don't think we have anywhere that Jesus doesn't heal someone that is begging him or asking him. So there's no indication here that he's not going to do that. So we will assume that, he's going to do that.
And he's
but
planning on it.
He's planning on it, but he's not going to answer to that title. So he's not responding to her right away. Okay. So the disciples, his disciples came and begged him, saying, "Send her away, for she is crying after us." This is the controversial thing. And I think Hosea is right. I think what they mean, the term "send her away" in the Greek, I looked it up. I don't speak Greek, right? But I looked it up. It's a neutral term. You can fill that up with whatever you want, the implication. And so I'm agreeing with Jose that he thinks that they're saying, heal her, heal her and get her out of here. Okay. There's a certain amount of betraying of their prejudice. There's nowhere where he heals someone and everyone says, people say, "Send her away, get him out of here." Yet that seems to be the thrust of this. Heal her, stop this and send her away.
But in one sense, we don't know. We're just making an educated guess.
That's
like you said.
That's my.
And we don't have to. It doesn't necessarily have to be one way or the other to change the thrust of the story either. But somehow it is. They just want to get rid of her.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But I'm assuming that it does mean that because of his response. Okay. Send her away. She's crying after us. So they're basically saying, heal her, get her to stop, send her away, get her away from us. So then he answered. Now the question is, who does he answer to? Okay. I'm assuming that he is answering to the disciples. Okay. And he's saying to them, he answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." This is my take on it. Okay. That he's basically telling these guys, because they know he's healed everyone before this, right? Like I said, all those different people that were not Jews, he's healed them. Unclean, clean, doesn't matter. They're going into a Gentile territory. So he's wanting them to know that, gentlemen, don't take this wrong. Don't make any theological conclusions on this.
Yeah.
I have been sent to the house of Israel. My ministry is to the Jews. That is who I am. But I'm going to heal this lady. But just don't get any assumptions that it's other than that, because they could easily think, well, we're going into Gentile territory,
Yeah.
and here comes a Canaanite and he heals her. Oh, okay. So I guess we're going to the Gentiles to do a bunch of healings. And
No.
Jesus is saying, no, don't make any theological conclusions. All right. The woman heard him say that I've only been sent to the lost sheep of Israel. So she thinks he's not going to heal her. In fact, probably when she first came to him, she probably didn't think he was going to heal her because she's a Canaanite.
Right. And
All
she's
right.
a woman that he would never talk to her.
He would never
even.
talk, but
Yeah.
she's assuming somehow from her being in Tyre and Sidon in that area, she's heard, just like the centurion. We don't
Right.
know how they got information,
Yeah.
how she was able to come to the conclusion that this could be the Messiah,
Right.
the son of David. I mean, we just don't know where that information
But
comes from.
somehow she did, obviously.
But she made
knew.
she made the
Yeah.
connection, like the centurion,
Yeah.
you know, where the Jews, the very people that should have known, don't. They can't get through. They
Right.
can't get past their
Yeah.
religious, their preconceived notions of who the Messiah is, and so they're stuck in that. So that lens, they can only see things through that lens,
Yeah.
and yet the Gentile can see it clearly.
Yeah.
Well, this is this. I know she's familiar enough with the Judaism that she can see clearly this is the son of David.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I don't think she thinks he's going to heal her. But why not try? That's the whole thing of faith. She thinks he's that. I got nothing to lose. It's for my daughter. What parent in this room, on this
Yeah.
video, would not do anything the chance to heal your daughter?
Right.
You do anything,
Exactly.
And so this is a shot.
I got nothing to lose.
That's the phrase. I got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Okay. I believe it. I'm going to step it out in faith, man, and I'm going for it. All right. She's a woman. Why would any Jews ever talk to a woman, a Canaanite woman? There's no way, there's no way, but I got nothing else to do. I got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so she hears that. She thinks that Jesus is not going to heal her because he just told the disciples, I've only been sent
Right.
to
And
lost
he's ignoring her anyway.
Right. And so she ups her game. She's not going to be, let me back up. At that point, she should have just turned away and said, oh, shoot. Oh, well,
Yeah.
whatever.
Bummer. Yeah.
Bummer. No. She's
Yeah.
come this far. She's not taking no for an answer.
Mm.
So she goes up, she goes before him. She was following after him. It appears now she's going up right to him, getting in front of him and kneeling down in your version says it in
Worship.
in total humiliation and
Mm.
subjection, and begs him. And Lord, help me. Help me. She calls him Lord again. She's emphasizing, Lord, help me.
Yeah.
All right. And so he answers her, and he basically reiterates what he just said to the disciples. Okay. He says, but here's where it turns. All right. He's going to say to her, basically in different words, what he already said to the disciples. I've only been sent
Yeah.
to the lost sheep of Israel. But now this is where you use your imagination. And I think this is the only way it really makes sense, is she kneels before him, and in tenderness, perhaps with a smile on his face, he speaks to her. She's probably looking up at him, and he says to her, it's not fair to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. And the dogs there are not scavenger dogs. Those are house pets. Those are, Romans had pet dogs.
Yeah.
Okay. Little dogs of the house, pet dogs. Some Jews did, some maybe. So she's familiar. They both are familiar with house
Yeah.
pets. Okay. But still an insult. Okay. And
Right.
so he's using the classic, the Jewish superiority, racial discriminatory statement. You're not a Jew. You're lucky. You're lucky to get the scraps from the Jews.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jewish men would wake up every morning, and part of their prayers was they would thank God that they were Jewish men would thank God that they were neither a woman nor a dog.
Yeah.
So if you think about this encounter, that they did not have high view of women or dogs, and this
Thank
is
you.
exactly. And so, what is Jesus doing? He's kind of saying this about dogs while encountering a woman.
I love it. I never
Yeah.
put that together.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Don't show me up like that again.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
I'll keep everything to myself.
All right.
from now on,
Play
so
stupid here. You got
Yeah,
it.
okay.
All right. So, okay. So,
usually easy for me. So.
okay. So, but he looks at her with a smile on his face.
Yeah.
I believe at that point she knows
Yeah.
he's going to heal her. When she begs him and she looks up and he's smiling and he says this, this type of this kind of a gross racial term, but he's got a smile on his face.
It's like
you know?
banter, yeah.
Yeah, he says it's it's not it's not fair to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. That's a term of. Okay, let me back up. Jay Edmonds. People maybe don't know. There's a friend of ours named Jay Edmonds. Jay is the black man. Okay, and he's an older guy like we are, and he and Rich were almost really close, really friends.
Yeah,
long time. And sometimes what they would do in public, and Jay is just as disgusted with racial discrimination and all that stuff as we are. And so what Jay would do, sometimes he and Rich would be out in public, and they would be walking into a restaurant or something, and Jay would slip into the Master Reed, can I open the door for you?
Yeah.
And Rich would say, do or something like that.
Yeah.
They would both slip into those caricatures,
yeah.
and people in public would be aghast.
Yeah.
They would go, oh my God, and they were shocked. But what Rich and Jay were doing is they were ridiculing the racism,
the silliness of making that. They're like, we're brothers in Christ, we're best friends for 25 years. I mean, whatever it is, it makes no difference to us.
Exactly. They make it it's the same thing like when Barb and I, our son-in-law came to visit us for the first time, and he doesn't know us or anything, and he's in a meeting or something out in Shadowfax where the men kind of hang out and cigars, and I think it was Jose walked in or something like that, and Rich made the comment like
maybe we may or not make what the comment
okay,
is,
but it was some kind of a about
Jose being Mexican.
Yeah, about something about Jose. Thank you, you good governor on me.
Yeah.
Okay, about something about Jose being Mexican or something like that. And my son-in-law was shocked.
Yeah,
he was like, he looked at our daughter Jessica, kind of like,
who are these people?
Did I just hear this?
Yeah.
He didn't get it.
Yeah.
He didn't get the wonderfulness of the closeness that you can ridicule or show up or expose racism. It's so this is the same,
the hypocrisy of racism. It's no thing between people or Christians who have their image in Jesus.
You can make fun of that stuff.
Yeah,
you make fun of it.
You make light of it because it's no thing to you. You've overcome that barrier.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And so it becomes fun to do. Yeah. It's almost Torrance does that a lot of times in our fellowship. Torrance will, and he does it. Torrance is great.
Irreverent.
It's all totally irreverent, but it's so funny when Torrance does these things,
Yeah.
But again, it's exposing the hypocrisy, like you said. That is what's going on here, I believe.
Yeah.
That Jesus is smiling at her, and he's making this common Jewish statement about other people, that you're a house dog, or something like that. She gets it, and so she immediately steps into the joke with him. Now she steps into the joke.
And he's almost, I was just going to say, he's almost rebuking his disciples because they're obviously discriminating against her on the basis of her race and her gender. And these guys are listening, saying, hey guys, you don't care about her. You just want her to leave. You don't have compassion on her because she's a woman. She's a Canaanite. And he is absolutely really showing them up for the fact that they don't care about her just because she's a woman, just because she's another race.
Exactly.
And so
exactly.
he's just like, get rid of that.
All right. So that's the second time you've shown me up.
Sorry. So she's stepping into
okay, Jack. Okay. You're making me look bad again. You steal my notes.
She's stepping into it. Sorry.
I'm kidding. I love it. Good point.
Yeah.
I did. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. And so she responds with a smile on her face. And she says, yes, Lord. Now, remember, she's got a smile on her face. Yes, Lord. Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm a pet dog, I mean, even the pet dogs get something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, which is playing right into that whole thing that the Jews get everything, and if you're around us, maybe you might get something from the things of God. I mean, it's just, and so she jumps into that thing. Okay. And then Jesus answers her, "Oh woman, great is your faith. Be it done for you as you desire."
Yeah.
When he says to her, now notice he doesn't say your faith has healed your daughter.
Right.
He's saying this little joking thing they did, I don't believe is tied at all to her faith. I think that he was going to heal her daughter, whether she came and knelt before him, whether she did this little joke thing.
Her faith was the persistence coming to approach him, being willing to sacrifice for, look silly, approach a crowd of men and possibly be rejected. That's all her faith.
Exactly. It's just like the centurion.
Yeah.
You know, the fact the centurion made these movements was that was the faith, you know.
Yeah.
Jesus was probably going to heal the guy's kid, whether he, you know, whatever happened, because he asked.
Yeah.
Jesus was going to heal this lady's daughter because she asked.
Yeah.
And yet her three steps of faith, right?
Yeah.
She figures it out, who he is. She's got the evidence. She moves out to, like you said, I got nothing to lose. I'm going to do it. I'm scared to death. I don't know what's going to happen. And and she kneels before him and finally and subjects herself totally. What do you call it? Exposing herself to ridicule and whatever. That was her faith.
Yeah.
You know. And he says, you have great faith. It's almost like, lady, you got great faith. You know, of course I'm going to heal your daughter, but I want everyone to know, look at you guys. This is a woman. This is faith.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah.
This is faith.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and so that's my turn on that story. And so, and again, that's my turn on the story. And it's fun to talk about it. You know, maybe we can, you know, later on or something, maybe Sunday if we have time, if people have questions, whatever, we can turn on the story. So anyway, and what time is it? No, oh my gosh, time to stop.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that it's that Jesus doesn't care about class. He doesn't care about race. He doesn't care about gender. He just sees people. He sees people in pain. He sees people who need a relationship with God. And he, in one sense, breaks down through transcending all those barriers. I mean, he'll eat with anybody. He'll fellowship with anybody. He'll heal anybody. He does. We so often are conformed to the world in the way we let people be broken up, and we let walls and barriers and, you know, separate us. And Jesus just cuts through all that and saying, oh no, you're a person who needs help, you know, it doesn't matter if you're a woman, it doesn't matter if you're a Jew or a Greek or slave or a free or anything. It doesn't matter if you're rich. He heals the daughter of a ruler, a rich person. Well, he doesn't, and he also heals the lepers, who are the outcasts of society and the poor, you know. So Jesus is kind and gracious to everybody, and he just cuts through those things and says, to him, it's a person. You know, I think that's a lesson to us as well, because everybody's broken up and segmented and, you know, like this and that and everything. And it's like, well, no, it's just, he sees, you know, Joe the centurion, like he doesn't care that he's Roman, and he sees this woman and it's like, he doesn't care that she's a woman, and he sees the ruler. He doesn't, you know, a lot of times we're thinking, hey, we got to punish the rich. Well, he heals the rich, you know, he heals the tax collector, everybody. And so I think that that's also part of how he wants us to see everybody, in terms of breaking down those walls and barriers. And that it's just certainly something that's needed in our world today. You know? And
we did not meet before this, but I'm saying that was a great conclusion to this. You nailed it. That's if you're gonna get anything from all that I've been talking about, that's it right there. Good, well done.
And I think that's sometimes we get lost in the magic of the stories, like walking on water, but realizing, well, Jesus is wanting to have an effect upon our lives and be the Lord of our life and tell us something. These stories aren't just to entertain us, you know. So
exactly.
Well, it's great. Thanks everybody for being here. If you're around on Sunday, come by on Sunday and talk with us. These are not politically correct bedtime stories, but Jesus pissed off a lot of people, and he didn't conform to any particular social rules, but, you know, he was just all about loving people and whoever they were, you know, and that's a good lesson for us. So come by on Sunday, come by next Thursday. If you have any more questions, let us know. We'll come see you. We can do a Zoom session. We could do a Spanish Bible study, and it's great to see everybody. So thanks for hanging out. Abby Parker, thanks for giving that little report. That was great about the mourners, and you know, and so
Ada, thank you for being here.
Yeah, Ada, it's glad to have you here. And so Jeremiah, John Bang, Pud,
Ryan,
Amelia. I saw Amelia.
Amelia's here.
Yeah, she was here. I think she just checked out.
Okay.
So
all right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ada.
We'll see you on Sunday, Ada. Sunday morning. Okay. We'll see you hopefully out front. So, all right.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
Glad you were here.
Bye, guys. Good night. Thanks.
See you guys in a little bit.
Bye, good night.